there's a trick that I've learned over the years. Sometimes when I can't get something going with somebody in a scene, what I try to do is see if I can kiss them and do what I would do if I were like on a date with somebody. There's a thing in the book that says, when you go on an audition, you want to slap the other person and kiss them. If you can get that done, you'll probably get the job.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Tom Noonan is an actor. He sat down with me in cyberspace to talk about the work. Quick disclosure. What happened was, the film Tom Noonan discusses in this conversation was produced by the executive producer of this podcast, Scott McCauley, the editor-in-chief of Filmmaker Magazine. But that film was made before the launch of Filmmaker Magazine, and he is not profiting from its re-release, which hits virtual theaters Friday, January 29th. Is it true that you kind of are not acting anymore, or you're not pursuing acting? Do we have to talk in the past tense?
I don't know if the past tense means that my life as an actor is over.
I'm asking you.
Well, a bunch of things conspired, and there are a lot of things probably I'm not conscious of that sort of made this happen. But I suddenly stopped feeling, this is going to sound pretentious. There was always fun thing about acting was that the amazing things would happen. And they sort of stopped happening. And my kids finished college. And I don't know, I'd not had a break in like 40 years of acting. I was surprised when I went back and looked at it, how all the things I'd done. And I just became pickier and pickier after that. And I have yet to agree to anything. It's also the COVID came and that took a year out of it.
Yeah.
But for about a year and a half, I ended up just sort of not being interested in most of the things that I saw. And I worked on my house a lot, and I was writing a bunch, and I don't know.
I was dwelling on that, or hearing a similar thing you said in another interview, and then I kind of like asked the universe. You were saying you were worried about sounding pretentious. I'm worrying about sounding like a kook now, but something came to me, and this is what I was imagining was your reason, and I want to just say it, and then that'll be a good way for us to talk about how wrong I am, or how right I am. Okay.
Yeah.
Your approach to the work, which is through the mystery, wasn't being satisfactorily fostered.
Yeah, or I was not able to do it. I mean, I'm not blaming anybody. It could have been me or somebody else, but just everything sort of made me feel uncomfortable and feeling I'd done this already and I didn't need the money.
But isn't it true that something must have changed outside of you? Like, in other words, like people not the process, the way things are done changed, right? I mean,
No, I just got tired of maybe I got tired of some of the things that I had done all this time. Again, when I first started acting, when I was, and I was not young when I started, I was almost 30. I didn't take it very seriously, and I didn't really care about it very much. I'd wanted to be a musician, which I sort of failed at, and but somehow I was incredibly lucky. The things that parts that I got, things happened that, were just incredibly lucky over and over and over again. And I felt very supported and sort of, and I got very confident. Not confident like I thought I was wonderful, but just, I didn't care if things didn't work. I didn't care if they fired me. I didn't really care about anything. And having that sort of attitude, I guess, makes people somehow attracted to you often. but toward the end, it was just the end of what I, when I sort of slowed down now, I just wasn't, I was feeling scared, anxious and uncomfortable. And I never had that. I always felt really confident. I'd had 2 kids with the help of my partner, and I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to go away. I didn't want to go on locations anymore. And I just finished making 2 movies that I thought were pretty good. And I thought, well, it's going to be easy now. I can make movies cheaply and well, and people will flock to me, and I'll have so much work. Yeah. That's what I was hoping was going to happen. And I really have not yet. I've got a movie that it's a sort of a movie, but it's somewhat of a documentary that I made 5 years ago, but I still haven't worked on it or put it out. I did make another movie called Wang Dang during that period that I loved making it as a play, but when we did the movie, it was awful. It was just didn't work. I thought because, DV had just come along, and I thought we could shoot and I'll be able to, and it really was not helpful. But I did teach for those 10 years, and I loved it. I first taught at, I think I taught at Columbia University first, and then I taught at Yale for a year, and then I taught at NYU for 3 or 4 years, off and on, in SVA. And it was great. It was really fun.
As a way to begin to talk about what happened because there's a wonderful restoration going to be coming out, and I got a chance to look at.
Oh, good.
It looks great.
It looks different now. Did you see the restored version?
That's what I mean. Yeah. They sent me a link. Yeah.
Because it never was timed right. We never had time to really.
Oh wow.
It was.
Wow.
And we were both me and the DP were very, Joe DeSalvo were very unhappy with the original, but it had to get out, and Golden was very impatient, and
oh my God.
So it never really got. So now it looks like the way it was supposed to.
That's so great. That's such a happy story. Yeah.
Yeah. It is.
But seeing it again, like I went to film school in '92, so it's hard for me to explain what this movie was like. There's only one other movie that was talked about more than your movie, Tom, in my film school back, and that's Pulp Fiction. Everybody was talking about what happened it was this big deal, and then even Karen Sillas came in and talked to us. And this was maybe 1994 or 5, so a couple years after it. It must have come out in '93, right?
Yeah, I think '93. Yeah.
But I think a nice way to talk about it, to begin to talk about this, is to talk about her, because you cannot have a good actor doing this. You have to have a great actor, like a good actress, a satisfactory actress doing this is not enough. You know what I mean? Like, watching it again, I'm like, it had to be this. She had to be this good, because otherwise, if it's a mediocre performance, it's a mediocre movie. I'm right. I mean, so
she's great.
Did you write it for her? Did you see her somewhere?
No.
You already had it written. Talk to me about
I wrote it for my then wife, and then because of sort of difficulty personally, we ended up not doing it together. And I was sort of left hanging there because I'd planned on starting shooting on a particular day in April, I remember, and the day came and I didn't have anybody, and I'd gone to every actress that I knew.
Wow.
All these pretty well-known people.
Yeah.
Who I sort of knew or knew me a little. And nobody would do it. Everybody said, I remember when somebody said, oh, it's just a nice script, it's nice. It's just sort of, but there's nothing there really. I don't feel like there's much to hang on to or work with.
Wow. Wow.
And that was Karen Sillas, my final meeting.
Wow.
I met her for breakfast at a place on 8th Street. And she was at my same agency. I went to them finally and said, who do you got? I need somebody. And I don't know, she walked in and we sort of hit it off. There were a lot of historical things in her life she talked about the thing touching, and it was nice. And it was really great to work with her. we'd work and work and work and work and work and do scenes over and over and over. It was it was really nice. I mean, I don't like discussing things when I act. I don't like really getting any direction of any kind. I just do it a lot. Keep running it, and it really worked. I mean, it.
And she liked working that way too. Like she liked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she was. You know, I think it took a while to feel like. I used to always say, when I come to that door, we're on a date, and anything can happen. You know, you just forget everything we've done and just just really see what happens. And it was, you know, that those kinds of things did happen. You know, in small ways all throughout. It was very powerful thing.
Do you get to a point though, because you want to invite the accident like that, like you're talking about? Do you get to a point where you're thinking, are we overdoing it? Are we overrunning it?
I don't know if you can. I think, you know, I don't know. I always had the attitude that either you should rehearse very little or a great deal. In the middle is where it gets sort of crazy.
That's interesting.
So, and it was just fun to run it. It was just fun to let, and we didn't like, you know, I very little changed. I mean, I don't think I changed a word in that script.
Wow.
After I wrote it.
Wow. Wow.
Even when we're doing it, there are certain typos that I had that, you know, we both honor.
Wow. Wow.
And then when people came, it had this great feeling. The few that did come.
And like, if you're shooting 35 and you're basically in one room, like what kind of crew is this? I mean, is this a large crew?
Well, it's a basic crew. I mean, we had at least 15 or 20 people on the, you know, maybe 25. We did is we took a dance. It was a dance studio, and built in from, you know, to the. So then we could put the camera far back sometimes when we needed to, or take out walls.
That's so great, because it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like this wonderful studio apartment that I have
we
never
tried to
seen.
make it smaller than it was, because people used to say, "I love the movie, but how could she afford that apartment?"
Yeah, exactly.
But there's certain things I wanted to do with the camera that we just couldn't do if it was in a smaller space.
Right.
And we rehearsed for 5 weeks. We did it. Ran it as a play for 5 weeks.
Wow.
Found a location like a month or so later, booked it, and then started rehearsing. We rehearsed for months.
Unbelievable.
Off and on, but a lot. I mean, the crew, it was great. The crew knew all the words to the script, and everybody was really, and we shot we did 2 5-day weeks and 1 day at the end.
Wow.
It was 11 days.
Wow.
And part of the problem was that you had to be really careful. Because I knew this, we both knew the script so well that when a scene would start going, it was really hard to stop it. I wouldn't want to cut. But we were running into
the end of the reel.
Yeah, a lot of times. I remember Scott and Robin would be like, "Oh my God, you just you know, don't do that anymore."
It's funny you're mentioning Scott. Scott, of course, is the daddy of the show. So I think he doesn't know I'm talking to you. I think he's going to be mad because he has this wonderful thing that he likes to do where he doesn't want any movie he's ever involved with ever talked about on my show, you know, or in his magazine, you know, which I think is honorable. But I didn't know Scott produced this until I saw it again. I mean, I didn't know who Scott was back then, and now I've turned. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize Scott produced it.
It was the first thing he ever did.
Is that right?
And it was the first thing any of us really had. You know, a lot of us had never done much.
Oh my God!
And I'd acted a lot and written a lot, but not. You know, I never directed myself in a feature, so.
And but what is a role of like a producer at that when something is this small, but it doesn't feel this small? I mean, like I thought this was much smaller, but this is you're having all those weeks of rehearsal. You're having like a large crew. You're treating this as a film. I guess that's the way it was back then, right? I mean, because
you need a gaffer, you need a grip, you need at least 2 lighting people. You need a hair person, makeup.
Yeah.
Sort of just.
It adds up.
2 people for catering and a couple of gophers, and you're at 25 people.
Yes.
It's not hard to,
You as a director, you're in every scene, obviously. All you have to do is worry about is yourself and this one other actor, but you're actually acting with her. So like, what do you do as you're filming, of like in terms of adjustments, or was there even something like that going on then after all this rehearsal?
Well, there was not a lot of that, but even though I was acting and directing, which I don't find that difficult to do, I would be directing the DP behind my back or off camera with my hand as the scenes were going on, like move in or get back or go lower, or
oh my God,
or the dolly's not catching up with us fast enough, and I find it very easy to direct something that I'm acting in, and that's that's why I still do it.
Did that short story come first?
No. What happened is I wrote the whole thing, and I put a story in there that was pretty good, but not great. And I think I gave it to my ex-wife to read, and she said, "And the story is so stupid." And so I thought, well, I'll fix the story. But I don't know, that made me laugh. It just made me laugh that, the whole thing. That, when you're laughing or crying when you're writing, you're doing okay.
Yeah. And that scene with the story is so aesthetically, everything changes in that thing. That was all, I guess, thought out, right? I mean, this is not something that you're building in the editing.
No. I write a lot. I've written an enormous amount of stuff. Most of it very good. But you learn a lot about structure and becomes sort of part of your process. So what I wanted to do with the story is basically she starts in one place low and I'm up high because I'm arrogant and full of myself. And during the course of the thing, I drop down, and she's the writer. She's the person that's serious. I'm the person who's silly and has no idea what they're doing.
Yes.
And that was sort of the only thing I went by. I just sort of kept thinking, well, we got to flip. And then the story came, and this is the place that we should, flip the movie, turn it around a little, and then from there it's sort of a ride to the end.
Yeah. So it gets done. You edit it. Like, what was the editing process like? Like, are you in there with the editor? Are you?
I was on a movie called Last Action Hero at the time.
Yeah.
And they were really cool. They would put all my scenes together, and I would fly out there and shoot, and then come back and edit.
Oh,
and we actually shot the last week while I was back and forth from LA.
Wow.
But I wrote it and directed it with the edit in mind.
Yeah.
Which is sort of what I think is the way to do it.
Yeah.
And as you rehearse a lot and you start to find out what some of these moments mean, or what they're made of, I'm already thinking of the blocking and how the blocking will then fit with the shooting.
Yeah.
And they all help each other.
Yes.
Or contrast, or whatever you want to call it. And I'd spent a lot of time on movie sets, just asking people questions about how you did stuff. Mostly sound people, but a lot of DPs. I would sort of try to be friendly with them and see if they'll talk, and it was very helpful to understand a lot of that stuff. So I knew a lot, when I started.
So what was this? Was this like a whirlwind? It seems like it was a whirlwind thing. I mean, especially after Sundance, right? I mean, it wins Sundance. I mean, the idea that this small film would get to me, of course, I was in New York at that time, but to the point where it's like everyone's talking about it. So something happened. It's not just other films at that time that won Sundance. People aren't talking about it in my world, back then in the dark ages of the non-internet. So something happened. I mean, what was that like? And how did you navigate that part of this whole thing?
Well, I never imagined that we would get done in time to submit it to Sundance, and I never thought I'd ever get in. I was amazed. I remember the moment when I got the call, and then we went to Sundance with the film, and nobody paid any attention.
Wow.
Um, at all. And I used to go and stand by the ticket booth because you could stand there and people would come in and look at the wall because it had cards for each of the movies, or I can't remember exactly, something like that, hoping to hear something positive, and nobody ever talked about it. They'd all come and talk about other movies. And then I had to come back because I was on stage doing Wifey at the same time.
Oh.
So I left after the first week. And when I was leaving, somebody who was, not sure who this was, Mitchell Galen, I don't know, said, we know you're going to win. And I was like, you're right. Huh. And then I went home and I got ready to shoot, ready to do the play, go back on with Wifey. And they called up and said, you've won a bunch of things here, and you have to come out. But I couldn't go because I was in the play.
Wow. So
my production designer, Dan Willett, he stood out in the lobby of the theater, and every time I'd leave the stage and go off, I'd say, "What happened? What happened?" Because he was on the phone with somebody at Sundance as the awards were announced. Because I just wanted to make sure that we were getting what I thought we were going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we did. So, but after that, I don't know if there was any whirlwind. I remember I think in the first, hanging out there during that period when the first week of What Happened Was being screened. A lot of people gave me their cards and gave me all these, contact numbers and stuff, wanted me to call them. And then when I won, they all started calling me, so I threw them all away. And I went to my agents and said, I don't want you to be my agents except for acting now. I can handle the writing and directing. And I started writing something right away, and thinking that I'll easily get this on. And
yeah.
I mean, I was already making Wifey, but I had 2 or 3 other movies lined up to do right after that. But then we had kids, and that was that was a priority at that point.
Yeah.
So I went on location with my ex in Rome, and I was there for like 6 months. And then I came back, and the movie had opened.
Uh-huh.
That was Wifey, and so I wasn't around much during the movies and playing. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I remember I used to go down and stand on stage and introduce the movie, or not introduce it, but be there at the end to take questions. That was sort of fun, but I just wanted to work. I wasn't really,
And when they come to you and they said, we want to re-release this now.
The movie never came out on DVD.
That's right. It was on VHS though, as I remember.
Yes. Ugly. Oh, it was awful. And the ugly box and the ugly.
Oh yeah.
They did these pictures of Karen. It didn't have anything to do with the movie. And
and there's a trailer. The trailer, Tom. I looked at it. That is hilarious. They do parody trailers now of movies to make them seem like other movies. And at first I thought it was a parody trailer. It makes it seem like it's going to be a thriller.
Yeah.
So you obviously had no say in any of that.
They didn't tell me they were doing that. I just thought, we gave them pictures and we gave them.
Oh God.
Yeah. I tried to not think about it because there's nothing I could really do at that point.
Yeah.
The movie was already out, and it was already in Tower Video.
And Siskel and Ebert loved it. That was the other thing. I was obsessed with those guys as a youth.
Yeah.
So when they were talking about this too, so highly.
Yeah, Gene liked this, and Roger liked Wifey. But Roger and I became pretty tight. I mean, I would talk to him. He was a really cool guy.
Yeah. Will you tell the Charlie Kaufman story in relation to What Happened Was? Come on. So your head drop there gives me the impression that you've told the story many times, but you haven't.
No, I haven't. I mean, what happened is I was really into computers when I had my kids, because I was just, I could write and do all these things and compose easily. And so I had this website up there, and the website basically said, this is how I made this movie. this is how I wrote it, this is how I directed, this is how I cast it, this is how I directed it, and try to share like how it was like for me, how to do it. And in there I put my phone number and my email contact, I guess my email address. And so what happened was opened, and it ran in the city for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. Then it went on tour, like went to these calendar houses. And one day I get this letter from this guy, and and it says, I just saw your movie, and I always wanted to make movies, and I've been sort of not feeling like I could, and having seen your movie now, I really believe I can. And I sat there and I watched your movie, and it really moved me, and I just want to thank you so much. And it was this cool letter. I just get a lot of these letters, and I just put it in a file. And then Charlie came along and started working on this movie called Being John Malkovich, which I actually got my agent gave me the script of that when it was going around, and I thought, they'll never make this movie. There's no way this will ever happen. I mean, they're not going to get Malkovich, and but they got the thing made. And then I went to see it. It was great, and I sort of followed what was happening with Charlie, and he started like talking a lot about what happened, about how it was important to him in his life, and it had a big impact on, and it helped him do what he's done, and it was very sweet. I mean, to have this guy who was so incredibly talented and successful, to sort of supporting me. And then my friends kept saying, you should call him up, he'll love you. And I said, nah, he loves the movie and he talks great about the movie, but if he meets me, he's going to realize I'm a jerk, and he's not going to talk about me at all anymore. But then eventually I just thought, okay, so I called up his agency, and I got his agent on the phone. His agent said, "Oh my God, I can't believe it's you. I got to call Charlie. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere." Like this LA thing.
Yeah.
And he said, "We'll call you right back." And I got off the phone. I think, what did I do? And then like 10 minutes later,
the
phone rang, and I picked it up, and it was Charlie.
Isn't that amazing?
And I said, there's this Thai restaurant nearby. We should go. And so we went out and had. I don't know if we had lunch the first time we met, but it was just we started meeting and having dinner and lunch off and on in LA. I guess in New York too. Yeah. And then he wrote Anomalisa. Yeah. And that was the first chance that I had to work with him. Yeah. And that was really fun. We did it as a play and did it at the Royce Theater, and we did it as a stage reading, or sort of it was great.
So that was before Synecdoche.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the 2005 was when I did Anomalisa, and then I don't think Synecdoche was until like 2008 or 9. And then Charlie called up and said, we're going to do the movie of Anomalisa.
What was your take, finally getting to be directed by Kaufman in a movie, and having that relationship with him?
I would just, I would kid around with him a lot, sort of make fun of him and do stupid shit. And then, but I remember once saying, you can just tell me what to do. I'll do anything you want me to do. I don't mind somebody telling me if it's something you think is important to the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's. I don't know.
And did he? And did he? I mean.
Yeah. 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 But there's a scene. I don't know. Since you want to talk about acting, there's a trick that I've learned over the years. Sometimes when I can't get something going with somebody in a scene, or it's just not, there's something missing, or what I try to do is see if I can kiss them. Wow. And do what I would do if I were like on a date with somebody.
Wow, that's a great idea.
I mean, I'm not the only person who's done this, and
I've never heard it before.
So, but it makes it, well, even in this, there's a great book by Michael Shurtleff. You know Michael Shurtleff?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
good. Most people your age, not like your age, but
Yeah.
most people who are not young, nobody knows him. But there's a thing in the book that says, when you go on an audition, you want to slap the other person and kiss them. If you can get that done, you'll probably get the job, which I thought was great. Great advice.
Yeah.
But I sort of, it was something you could always fall back on, like, and the crew, like, who were watching the scene, it was in a window, or so we're all sort of cramped in there, could tell that's what I was doing. It was a good laugh for everybody.
But who was opposite you in that moment?
Pillow.
No.
Pillow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He seems like he would have been.
He was perplexed by a lot of the things I used to
Oh,
do.
really? I was going to say I thought he would be not perplexed.
You would think, what is this fucking guy doing? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think and I think he sort of liked that.
Yes. Yeah.
I was sort of like itchy brother.
Yeah.
I can remember George of the Jungle.
Based on what you were saying at the beginning and what in that story, like the idea of like trying to do something a little crazy to get a spark going, you know?
Yeah. I used to do rehearsals on my knees. I used to do I used to do accents. I would do, which I'm terrible at, or I would sing the scenes, or anything to get away from the script and get away from what was happening and see what's going to happen. Anytime you get an impulse when you're acting, it's good to sort of try to go with it a little.
Yeah.
Acting just it's a great feeling, and it's been consistently that way for my life doing it. It's, amazing experiences I've had acting, crazy things that sort of, psychic things and seeing things, and it's been sort of great.
I have to just, because that was almost specific, and so I need to know that. So you can reveal that here. That sounds almost like you broke through psychically to something and you saw a vision.
In some ways, yeah. I get this is sort of a longish story, but I think it's worth telling. If it gets too long, just tell me to shut up. So I had done one play, this terrible play that we rehearsed forever, and it was awful. It was one of those things. And I still like the idea of acting, but I was a little put off. And then someone said, "Oh, they're casting this movie called Buried Child." And I said, "Come on, man, I've done one part. Sam Shepard, he's got these great plays. He's never going to hire me in 1,000 years, And they said, just go to the thing. Go. And my friends kept saying, you're perfect. You're going to be great. And I said, God, okay, I'll go. So I went, and Robert Woodruff is the director, who's this great stage director, tremendous person. And something when I got in the room, something about the way I could feel him taking me in, that there was something happening, and I thought that this could be interesting. And so I read once, and then he brought me back, and I read a second time, and then he brought me back a third time, and then he had me read with everybody who was up for this part. I was going to play Tilden, and I got the part. I remember the final thing I did was that made him laugh was that there was a bucket or something on the floor, and this guy was reading with me, and I said, "Oh, just a second, can you hold this for me?" Which is a great trick also in acting, if you want to pull that one. You sort of leave them there standing there. I mean, it's something the British guys I'd read had done. They would fuck with each other. And then I got this job. So the job starts, and I'm in this play with all these people who have been acting for like 40 years and 30, and they all have, I've done one little play. But as we started rehearsing and stuff, I started feeling like comfortable and started feeling like I could take a chance here and do this. And I was learning all this stuff from these people, all these tricks they were doing and these things. And Woodruff now, about 3 weeks into the run, takes me aside and said, "Listen, Tom, when I hired you, I thought you weren't really experienced, and I don't know if you're any good, or you seem like you have something going on, but I don't know. I just thought it was fun to have you around." And I said, and then he said, but then I noticed, you've been sort of watching the other actors, and you're starting to feel comfortable, and you're starting to like take your space and do all these. And he said, I used to like you. I don't like you anymore.
Wow.
Don't do that shit.
Wow.
Just do what I asked you to do.
Wow.
I said, "Is that okay?" And I said, yeah, sure. It was just a great thing to learn right off the first real job I had. To have somebody say, give them what you got.
Yeah.
Which is what Ely Kazan used to say.
Yeah.
I hear. Just give us what you have.
Yeah.
And out of that, it started to grow, and it was one of the most amazing experiences. We did it for a year, and it was just incredible. It changed my whole life, and I never forget him doing that with me. So when I get on movies, that's probably still there. The idea that nothing's to be cherished, things are to be, played with and thrown away or whatever. Just I don't know. I don't know if this is helpful to anybody who would be acting, but
I don't care. It's helpful to me.
Yeah.
Do you recall someone really not taking well to you fucking with them?
Yes, quite a bit. I mean, I wouldn't do. I mean, what Woodruff? Let's go back to this play. What Woodruff's function the function he wanted from me was to be the disruptive element in the play. He saw those things I did when I came into audition.
Yeah.
I would get guys up on ladders. I would get guys carrying things around the room.
Yeah.
And he thought that was funny. So I learned acting there was a subversive, disruptive act was to act so I would do it a lot. And in the play, I was attacked 2 or 3 times on stage. I mean, I had a guy who got me in a headlock and tried to punch me. I mean, because I was.
You mean the other actors, not
other actors?
Oh, God.
Yeah. And I would hear Woody, the director, in the back of the house, laughing when these things would happen. And when the play moved from off Broadway to Broadway, to off Broadway, you have to have a contract, an equity contract for off Broadway, which requires that the play finish within a certain number of minutes of an ideal time every night. You can't vary the time. Mm-hmm. And you can't change the blocking, all these things, which I agree with. And I think you should never touch the blocking. But when the play moved, Woody went to the producers and said, I'm really glad you're going to do this, but I'm only going to do it if you promise me that Tom does not get notes.
Wow.
He can do whatever he wants.
Wow.
Which is what we've been doing since the play opened. And that if the play is longer or shorter because he's done some antics,
it doesn't count.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can't fire him. So it was crazy. I mean, I'm in this play and it's a hit, and these actors from Dustin Hoffman would be coming in, and all these people De Niro, people would come to see the show because everybody saw this. It was a big hit.
Yeah.
And I'm up there doing sort of, and it's not my fault. I mean, I didn't go into acting in order to be a show off or a provocateur, but that's what Woody, taught me.
Yeah.
And it was really, I don't forget that, because it's sort of been good for me.
Do you try and instill this in people you either teach or direct? Or is it not for everyone? You know what I mean? I mean,
No. I mean, I just encourage people to not, like, I did a thing at William Esper Studio about 5 years ago, and they wanted me just to teach for a month this class that it was just a scene study class. So they had their scenes and they started to learn them, and I came in and watched, and I said, okay, I would take them each aside separately and just say, play against everything you just played.
Yeah.
Play against both. And I didn't tell them they were, and then let them do the scene again. And the scenes would be like just incredibly great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of the scenes are scenes that are in movies. So people have these ideas once they see a scene in a movie that that's the way the scene is meant to be done. And I kept saying to them, you know, if you had never seen Brando do Godfather and you read that script, you would never imagine somebody doing the part the way he did it.
That's right. That's right.
And almost all great acting is playing against things.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of disruptive thing is sort of guarantees that.
Let's say the next Charlie Kaufman is out there. They're listening. They love you. They want to send you a script. They wrote it for you.
Yeah.
You're going to read it, right?
No. It depends who you are. I mean, I don't know.
I thought you would say yes, absolutely. I mean,
I don't even like reading my stuff. I don't, you know.
I'm talking about somebody who wrote it for you.
No, I mean, people have written stuff for me, and I've done them, and it's been really great. But I tend to not read things unless there's money behind it and there's somebody else in it who's
good answer. Good answer.
Legitimate, and it's just to protect myself. But I don't want this to go out there and have 10,000 scripts coming. You know, I don't.
I've never asked anyone that. I don't know why I felt compelled to ask that. I guess it's because I want something to ignite you back into acting. I guess that's what it is.
This has been good for me. I mean, I know I want to start working with people. I don't want to call it teaching really, but I love working with actors. I haven't done that. And it's been a drag with the COVID.
Yes.
With that, I have a theater on 4th Street. Anybody out there hears this, we're going under. I've been there for 37 years.
Wait, what is this called? What 4th Street? Where?
Oh, the Paradise Factory. I'm not very good at promoting what I do. I promote it when I have a show, but we had a full slate of plays a year ago, ready to go. We had, you know, people put down their deposits, and we were looking at a great year. And 2 months later, I don't know, what is this, February 17th or something, we were shut down. We can't go in the building. We can't use the building. I can't teach. I can't act. I can't direct. I can't do anything.
Where is this in conjunction to, remember Millennium?
Yeah, I'm right. I share a wall with Millennium.
Okay, now I know exactly.
Who's the guy that ran it? My friend, was it Roger?
No, not Roger. Howard.
Howard. Yeah, Howard and I would.
I love that guy.
His door into his building and my door into my building were right next to each other.
Yeah. Okay.
And we would commiserate with each other out there sometimes.
That's another gone place. I used to have an open mic night, but it was films, open film. You know, just bring a reel of film there, hand it to him. He'd run it. Amazing.
And the next block for many years, there's a Japanese restaurant there called, what the hell's the name of the restaurant? Gelato. I was trying to remember it because it's Japanese. And he had a back room and he gave it to Janine, this Korean guy who ran this Japanese restaurant, and they would have film night once a week. Sounds like what you were doing.
Yeah.
And we were only like 100 feet away.
Oh, that's nice. Tom Noonan, thank you so much.
Sure.
Now that we've done this, I'm fantasizing about doing it again in a fantasy world where two people can sit together in a room.
Sure.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham, formerly IFP. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.